Good evening. I am hereby calling to order the council meeting of December 10th, 2018. Lisa, may I have a roll call?
Mr. Balestria,
Present.
Mr. DeJohn,
Here.
Mrs. Finney, Mr. Mano,
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta, Mrs. Snyder,
Here.
Mrs. Tressi.
Here. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to move to the acceptance of the minutes from the last meeting. I hope that all of you have had time to read these minutes from the November 26th meeting, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? So moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mr. Mano. Are there any changes or deletions to these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. And these minutes have been adopted. Next are the minutes from the special meeting on December 4th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any changes to these minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Absent from the meeting.
And these minutes have been adopted. Moving to the minutes from the special council meeting on December 5th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any comments or changes to these minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Abstain.
Abstain.
And these minutes have been adopted. Does any member at this time have any correspondence or announcements? Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Chagrin River Watershed Partnership's quarterly trustee meeting is this Thursday, December 13th at 4 p.m. at the Mayfield Village Community Room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Any other comments, correspondence? I would just like to congratulate Mr. Tribby and his staff in the Finance Department for receiving the Audit of the State Award. This is a result of having a timely financial reports and receiving a clean audit. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next are reports of officers, starting with the mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. The annual Fill the Cruiser event was held on Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at our Walmart. The police department reported an overwhelming response with food items, cash donations, and toys for needy families, I should say. In addition, the police department and the fire department are working in coordination with Lander School to collect toys to fulfill Olivia Schneider's wish of donating toys to needy children this year. As always, it's wonderful to see the city of Mayfield Heights coming together for such a worthy cause, and a heartfelt thank you to everyone involved. I would like to also mention that our Bureau of Workmen's Compensation Managed Care Organization, which is 888 Ohio Comp, donated 30 turkeys, 30 $10 gift cards for our Needy Family Fund, and they donated 60 $10 gift cards to the Community Partnership on Aging, so we thank them for that. We did receive some holiday recycling tips from Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District. I believe we put them on the website, right, Renee? Yes. Some of the things that they were worried about was recycling cardboard and how to do it. So the tips on how to do that to make sure it doesn't just go to waste this year, since there's a lot of Amazon ordering going on and a lot of cardboard boxes going to be out there. So if you want to go on the website, there's some tips to make sure you do it correctly. Also, the service department this year will not be mailing recycling scheduling magnets to our residents. We will have some at City Hall, so you can stop up at the service department to pick them up. And you stole my report about the finance department, but that's okay. I'm gonna say it again, Bob, is that good? Okay. I just want to thank Bob and the whole finance department, Lisa Benedetti, Rita Kramer, and Angela Ionero Grismar, for their work, and you guys do a great job, so thank you. Hillcrest Hospital celebrated their 50th anniversary last week. I was fortunate to present Dr. Parker and Hillcrest with a proclamation, excuse me, honoring this accomplishment. Hillcrest Hospital is ranked as one of the top 5 hospitals in the Cleveland area and top 10 in Ohio. So we appreciate the services and support they've given the city of Mayfield Heights and the Hillcrest community over all these years. And finally, I would like to express my condolences to Wendy Satin, our Executive Director of the Community Partnership on Aging. Wendy's daughter, Emily, passed away last week. She was a devoted preschool teacher. And please keep Wendy and her family in your prayers. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? Mrs. Sabetta?
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I will add to the two of you's comments. The Finance Department has received this award 3 years in a row. It's quite an accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeJohn?
Thank you, Madam President. Mayor, the WOW company is now circulating around Mayfield Heights, selling their service. And the only thing I'd like to know is that will the government channel be on their broadcasting system?
I haven't seen their lineup, but I believe it has to be. You're working on it? Okay. I believe that's a requirement.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving to Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. No report this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Director of Finance, Mr. Tribby.
We have a few important financial matters on the agenda tonight, and we'll discuss those when they come up.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Tribby? Okay, we're going to move to the reports of officers. The Building Committee, which I chair, and I have no report. We have not had a meeting. Finance and Audit, Mrs. Sabetta.
No report. Thank you.
Legislative Committee, Mrs. Tressi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening.
Public Works and Service, Mr. Balestria.
I have no report. The committee has not met.
Well, I know Mr. Mano's going to have a report. Parks and Recreation.
The old guy always gets the reports. Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a short one. Mayfield Heights Breakfast with Santa was this past Saturday, December 8th. Everyone had a wonderful time meeting with Santa, riding the train, and listening to a story from Mrs. Claus. Save the date for the 2019 Taste of Italy on February 23rd. More details to follow in the next few weeks.
Any questions for Mr. Mano? Safety and Transportation, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Board of Zoning, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report, but for clarification purposes, Resolution 2018-76, the Chase Bank signage was originally written correctly, north, west, and south walls. The application, the BZ minutes, and the resolution state northwest and south walls. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? All right, and Planning Commission, Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Planning Commission met on December 3rd. However, I was not in attendance, so I'm going to defer to the mayor for a report.
Madam Chair.
Mayor.
We do have a couple things on the agenda this evening that we can address when they come up.
Thank you. So we will now, this is the section with the comments from the public. We will now move to this. Pursuant to the code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire portion. Although it is not a time for public debate, this is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. Please know that no personal attacks or comments will be allowed. Also, if you are here in conjunction with the agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. If you would like to be heard this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized. Then approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:15, and I will open up the public portion. Would anyone like to be heard? Nobody? Okay. 7:15, almost 16. I will close the public portion. Next on our agenda this evening is our resolutions, beginning with Resolution 2018-69. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2018-69, a resolution reversing the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in determining a self-storage facility use proposed by John Mulkin on behalf of Fairchild Management Company for 1413 Golden Gate Boulevard, Mayfield Heights, Ohio, also known as permanent parcel numbers 862-06-050, 862-06-071, 862-06-072, and 862-06-073 is a use consistent with the uses authorized in a U4 local retail wholesale district and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
second by Mr. Balestrea. A few weeks ago, the mayor sent out a memo pertaining to this. Are there any comments or discussion you would like to have? Mayor, would you like to talk? Mr. Murphy?
Thank you. Just to remind council that the original resolution confirmed the BZA decision regarding this self-storage facility. That resolution was vetoed by the mayor. Council had 28 days to act if it wanted to override that veto. That date was November 29th, so that's obviously passed, so the veto sticks. This resolution will reverse the decision of the BZA determining that this was a similar use, and will accomplish what I think council was looking for when the discussion was had regarding this, and council's objectives, of course, are primary. So in order to give the property owner and the developer some closure, this resolution should be adopted, which would reverse the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then the developer can come back and request a variance for just that parcel, which then would not be in the entire zoning district.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi,
Abstain.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2018-69 has passed. Resolution 2018-70, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution 2018-70, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an amendment to the PCAS site lease agreement with STC2 LLC by and through Global Signal Acquisitions 3 LLC regarding an antenna and appurtenances located upon the real property known as Cuyahoga County permanent parcel numbers 863-05-019 and 863-05-058, which is also the City Hall complex, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
second by Mr. Balestrea. I'm going to refer this to Mr. Murphy about this resolution.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. The changes in the amendment, which was originally, the lease was originally executed in 2001, was renewed to 2006, and then has been renewed until 2026. This amendment would provide for 6 more renewals, which could take it up to 2056. That's the first amendment. The second provides the tenant with a right of first refusal if the city ever does anything with its property. They wouldn't be shut out. They would get to keep their tower there if they so chose. So they would have a right of first refusal there. Thirdly, there's a signing bonus included of $10,000. And fourth, there's a provision that the city will receive 20% of the co-location revenue. And apparently there is another company that wants to co-locate on the tower. So whatever that rental will be, the city will receive 20% of that revenue. The thing that has held this up partially is the fact that there is some equipment that has to be sited on the service department's roof. And we've had our engineer and our plans examiner looking at that. And it's my understanding, talking to Mr. Gerson this evening, that they're very close to approving it. But what I would suggest is that this resolution be amended in order to, number one, provide that the tenant will provide any funds if necessary in order to strengthen the roof so that its equipment can be put on there. And secondly, that it be a condition that this lease not be signed unless the director of law has approved it. We have 5 weeks until our next meeting, and the tenant who is present this evening for any questions is really anxious to get going on this. So I would suggest that the resolution be amended to provide those 2 conditions and then voted upon by council. Questions?
Mr. Ballestero?
Ms. Murphy, was the tenant amenable to the additional funding that may be necessary? You spoke to the tenant with regards to whether that we needed additional support. They were willing.
Oh, in the service department? Yes, they paid for it initially and they would pay for it again.
They would refund the service department for their equipment? Is that my
No.
understanding?
They have to put equipment somewhere, and originally they cited it in the service department, on the service department roof. There will be additional equipment necessary, and that's part of what our engineer is looking at to make sure that the roof can support the additional equipment, or withstand.
Thank you.
Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Murphy, so is there more equipment going on the current tower that's there by the service department?
There would be additional equipment. I'm not sure what that additional equipment would look like, but yes, it would go on the existing tower. There is room on the tower for additional equipment. It's not a one and done type of installation. There are more, but I'm getting out of my element here, and the tenant is here if the chair would like to entertain questions.
Tina or John or Dave, any 3 of you want to come up here? It's fine. You can come over. Just state your name and address.
Tina Huang from Crown Castle from Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania. Do you need the full address? It's 1400 Main Street, Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania, 15317.
Thank you.
Dave Harper, Harper Engineering, 815 Superior Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Mr.
John Demko, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15238-317 Walnut Street.
Thank you. Would you like to ask him a question?
So you'll have rights to put anything on this tower till, what, 2056, is that correct? Am I correct in understanding that? And will anything that you're putting on this tower omit radiation?
So the antenna, will be additional antennas that will go on the tower, yes. So the agreement says that we can co-locate to whatever the tower is able to hold, and co-location is something that's supported in terms of not building new towers to support the antennas, but to co-locate on existing towers wherever possible. So the agreement is we co-locate whoever would like to add antennas and equipment on the tower and then share the revenue with the city. And yes, the antennas, they do, I'm not an engineer, but it will share signal with cell towers and with cell phones. I don't know if that's enough for your,
But does the tower emit radiation off of it?
so signals, yes, I don't know, I don't actually know the science behind the radiation. So the antennas just transmit signals to your cell phone, and so the additional antennas that will be added will also be transmitting signals to your cell phone.
Any other questions? Mr. DeJohn?
Just one last question. So anytime that they add equipment, we'll get revenue from that?
Yes, the lease provides that if there are additional carriers that co-locate on the tower, and as Tina indicated, rather than build another cell tower, they provide that there would be a number of carriers that could fit on that tower, and there's a requirement in the city that they co-locate as much as possible. So there would be additional room. I'm not sure how much room there is on the tower for another, but if others are located on the tower, yes, the city will receive 20% of their revenue.
Thank you.
Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. How many appurtenances can you put on this tower?
The tower passed a structural analysis that we provided to the city at 80%. It was like 80.2%. So it all depends on what type of equipment we go on. Actually, that is the structural capacity, the passing structural analysis that we provided to the city is including this new equipment. Now, there is still room, obviously.
Could you talk further, closer to your mic?
Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, the structural capacity passed with the equipment that we're proposing to put on now at 80.2%. And obviously, that leaves a little bit more room for additional equipment to go on there. It's kind of hard to say what the capacity would be with the next carrier, so to say, just based off of how many antennas they would need, how much equipment they would need on the tower.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
We need a motion to amend.
And the amendment would be, number one, that all improvements are paid for by the tenant, and number two, that the approval would not be, the mayor would not be authorized to sign them until the law director approved it as to form. That way we can look at it and hopefully get it signed in the next couple of weeks.
I need a motion to amend as stated by the law director.
I'll make that motion.
Oh,
Before we go on.
sorry.
Mr. Murphy, and the situation with the equipment and whether our roof can hold that other equipment, are we going?
That's what's being studied by our engineer, Mr. Gerson, and the building department plans examiner. And when they give their approval, then we will be in a position to sign the lease, but not before.
Okay, thank you.
And they've submitted all of the information, and I think it's just a matter of reviewing and putting it in writing and saying, yep, this is good.
Okay. Now, can I have a motion to amend as stated by the law director?
Move to amend.
Moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to amend.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve as amended?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Resolution 2018-70 has been amended and passed. Thank you. We now need to elect a temporary chair, as I will be abstaining from the next 4 resolutions pertaining to health care. Can I have a nomination for a temporary chairperson for tonight's meeting? Moved by Mrs. Tressi. Second.
I was nominating Mr. Belistria.
Right. And second,
Second.
Mr. DeJohn. Are there any other nominations? I need a motion to elect Mr. Balestre as the temporary chair for tonight's meeting. Moved by Mr. DeJohn, second by Mrs. Tressi. Roll call on the nomination.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on our agenda, we have 4 resolutions concerning healthcare for city employees. These are on 3rd read, so we won't have to suspend rules. So I'll ask Mr. Murphy to read first 2018-77. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 2018-77, a resolution authorizing membership in Ohio Government Benefit Cooperative. 3rd reading.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move.
By Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Any discussion? I know Mrs. Augustine is here and her healthcare committee. And again, I give you kudos for a bang-up job they did in putting together this healthcare benefit package. And council received that package. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review it. So does anybody have any questions? You can call the committee up if anyone has any questions. Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call on the motion to approve, please.
Mrs. Snyder?
Abstain?
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes, resolution 2018-77 has been approved. Next is resolution 2018-78. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2018-78, a resolution accepting a quotation for medical and prescription group health insurance from Medical Mutual of Ohio through the Ohio Government Benefit Cooperative, OGBC, and declaring an emergency. 3rd reading.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I'll ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Mrs. Sabetta. I'll second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none.
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Teresi, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is, why do we do this so late in the year? Why do we wait until the last council meeting to have this approved when most companies do it begin in September, and we wouldn't be rushed? We wouldn't have 3 special meetings at unusual times of the day.
We did address it at the special meeting as well, but I'll let Mrs. Augustine
Thank you.
address it as well. Go ahead.
Definitely a fair question, and I prefer not to work that way either. So we did get a commitment from Medical Mutual to have our renewal to us by October 1st next year, so that we won't be rushed. We'll have everything for your consideration ahead of time.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Abstain?
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes, resolution 2018-78 has been approved. Next on the agenda is 2018-79. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2018-79, a resolution accepting a quotation for dental insurance from Sun Life Insurance Company and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano and second by Mrs. Sabetta. Any discussion with regards to this resolution? Okay, seeing none, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Abstain?
Mr. Belistria?
Yes. Resolution 2018-79 is passed. Next is resolution 2018-80. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 2018-80, a resolution accepting a quotation for vision insurance from VBA Vision Insurance and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Thank you. And again, do I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
By Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Any discussion with regards to the vision insurance? Mr. Tressi, do you have anything?
No, I
Oh,
do
I'm
not.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no discussion, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Abstain?
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes, resolution 2018-80 has been approved. I'll turn the meeting back over to Mrs. Snyder. Thank you,
Thank-
Mrs. Snyder.
Thank you, Mike. All right, resolution 2018-81, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution 2018-81, a resolution authorizing the Director of Finance to transfer funds in accordance with the amounts listed in ordinance number 2018-36. First reading.
I need a motion to suspend the rules.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mrs. Tressi. This resolution needs to be enacted, allowing for the transfer of funds and cleaning up the funds for this year and entering into the new year. Mr. Trivia, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Not at this time. These are all listed in the ordinance, which will be addressed shortly.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Any other discussion? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Resolution 2018-81 has been passed. Resolution 2018-82, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution 2018-82, a resolution providing for the employment of a traffic engineering firm for the city of Mayfield Heights and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Thank you. May I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Need a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Ms. Tressi. We have not received a memo regarding this resolution, so I'm going to call Mr. Fernaro up to the podium, please. Thank you.
Yep. Joe Fernaro, Public Works Director, 6154 Maple Heights, Mayfield. This is our annual renewal for Mike, TMS Engineering, does all our traffic works. Last year we did go out for RFPs. Mike is holding his prices the same as he did in 2018, with no increases.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Frenaro, Mayor, myself? Okay, thank you, Joe. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Resolution 2018-82 has been adopted. Resolution 2018-83, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2018-83, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Henderson, Schmidlin and McGarry Company, LPA, to provide legal services from January 1, 2019 through December 31, 2019, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Thank you. May I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
second by Mr. Balestria. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Tressi. This will be providing legal services to the city for 2019, and I don't believe there's been an increase in cost. Are there any further questions? Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Resolution 2018-83 has been passed. Resolution 2018-84, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2018-84, a resolution approving a lot consolidation of Cuyahoga County permanent parcel numbers 863-14-002 and 863-14-003, 6525 Woodhawk Drive, so as to create one parcel. First reading.
Thank you. May I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano and second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. I need a motion to approve. Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mr. Mano. This came through the Planning Commission. We received a copy of the application and the memo and the overview of the lot image. Is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Balestria, or Mayor?
I'll defer to the mayor.
Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All
I'd just like to add that it was approved by our engineer, the plot, and also it was unanimous decision by the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Any further questions? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. 2018-84 has been adopted. Now, next on our agenda, we will be moving to ordinances, starting with ordinance 2018-34, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2018-34, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Mayfield Heights to enter into a collective bargaining contract with the Laborers Local Union number 860, Service Department Bargaining Unit, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Sabetta. This ordinance pertains to the contract with the Service Department. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes?
Excuse me. Mr. DeJohn?
Abstain.
Mr. Mano?
Abstain.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Abstain.
Okay, this is a 3-3. Ordinance 2018-34 has failed. Moving to ordinance 2018-36, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2018-36, an ordinance amending ordinance numbers 2018-13 and 2018-22, the appropriation expenditures of the City of Mayfield Heights, State of Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2018, specifically transfer and supplemental appropriation of funds in various accounts. First reading.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mr. Balestria. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. I need a motion to approve.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Teresi. This ordinance is a housekeeping item, making sure that the funds are in the proper categories before the end of the year. Mr. Tribby, would you like to add anything?
Well, as you know, I sent all of you a memo on Friday with some detailed financial information, which I will not read to you tonight because we'd be here till midnight. But essentially, this is about a 5.7% increase in the additional appropriations for the various funds. Most of it, of course, is in the general fund, which is about around numbers $1,350,000 in additional funding. The largest portion of this is to cover the additional costs of paying the wages that were approved during the course of the year. As I mentioned at the time we passed the original budget back in March, since we had none of the contracts in place, I used the 2017 rates in our projections for salaries. So now we need to make modifications in order to cover the amounts of those approved contracts. And of course, the other thing that I pointed out in my information I sent you is that we've received to date in the general fund over 24 million, specifically $24,218,158, which actually exceeds our estimated revenue for the entire year. We've already collected that, and would also exceed the amount of the additional appropriation. As I also mentioned in my memo, even though these amounts sound rather large, we're not going to spend all of that money. That I can guarantee. We just need the authority. As some year-end expenditures come in, we have to have the appropriation available to spend that money. Anything that's not spent will, of course, remain in the various funds, most of it, of course, in the general fund. So this is a matter of needing to make sure we have appropriations available to close out the year.
Thank you, Bob. Are there any questions for Mr. Tribby? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Ordinance 2018-36 has been adopted. Ordinance 2018-37, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2018-37, an ordinance making appropriation for current expenditures of the City of Mayfield Heights, State of Ohio, during the period of January 1, 2019 to and including March 31, 2019. First reading.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Teresi, second by Mr. Balestria. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Roll call on the motion to approve. sorry. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ballestrea, second
Second.
by Mrs. Tressi. Thank you. This ordinance is a temporary appropriation to ensure that the budget is set so that we can keep operating for the first 3 months into the new year until the final budget is passed in March. Anything further?
No, just repeating what, again, was in my memorandum, the amount being appropriated for temporary use until the permanent budget is passed is approximately 25% of the original 2018 budget. It's not 25% of the supplemental, it's just the original budget back in March. And this will allow, of course, operation to continue until the permanent appropriation is discussed and passed by council, probably in February, early March.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Ballestrea?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, this ordinance has been passed. Ordinance 2018-38, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2018-38, an ordinance amending Chapter 1383 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mayfield Heights by enacting Section 1383.051 regarding shutoff of utility services to all properties determined to be vacant and unsafe structures and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Ma'am, I have a motion to suspend the rules.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
second by Mr. Ballestrea. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Ballestrea?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. I need a motion to approve.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Discussion. So, hold on. Mr., I'm going to defer this to Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. This just came up, although it had been moving along, this just came up really on Friday. The council had authorized the demolition of a structure on Sunset Road back in the fall, and the land bank, the land reutilization unit from the county was in a proceeding to do it, and it turns out that the gas and the electric, even though the house has been abandoned according to Mr. Jameson for close to 20 years, the gas and the electric not only is still supplying, but it's being paid for by the owner who lives in North Royalton or North Ridgeville or somewhere over that way. So the utilities would not terminate service until they got the word from the city and the mayor that this was dangerous. Obviously, it is dangerous to have the utilities still hooked up even though the house is vacant. Council authorized the demolition by an earlier ordinance, and the utilities would not accept council's determination that this was an eyesore and was dangerous and was a threat to the public health, welfare, and safety. So, talking to Mr. Jameson and the mayor, what we decided to do was enact an additional part of the codified ordinances, which would have the mayor specifically designate to the utilities that this house was a threat to the public health, welfare, and safety, and therefore order the utility companies to terminate service. And that is what the East Ohio Gas and Electric Company are looking for. So if this is adopted this evening and adopted as an emergency, then we can let them know immediately and get the house torn down before the end of the year, which is when the county's grant terminates, and we'll have to pay for it ourselves.
Mr. Mano.
I'm glad we're doing this. This is long overdue. But are we serious about this? Are we going to act on this with an iron fist Or are we gonna play games with people and give breaks here and breaks there? I mean, this is something that you're gonna have the tool in the toolbox to take care of some things, but it's gotta be acted on. We can't play around with this. Property's abandoned, property's unsafe, we gotta move with this immediately. No playing of games. That's the only thing that I want. But this is long overdue.
Mrs. Tracy?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We still have the home sitting on Pepper Hollow. That has not been demolished, and we did that earlier in the year as well, and it's still there. What about its utilities, since it is empty? Have we done anything there? And again, I was gonna ask in comments from council, I was gonna ask when we're gonna tear that down. So, it's all in one.
Mr. Murphy?
Peeper Hollow, we own. The utilities have been shut off. We don't have to make a determination that it's a public health hazard. We can just tear it down, and if Mr. Finaro knows when that might take place, I could tell you, but apparently we haven't contracted for tearing it down yet. So, soon.
Am I allowed to ask another question? Oh. Mr. Murphy, we haven't torn it down yet. Have we repaired any of that wall or the debris that's in that creek? Have we done anything since we purchased this house?
That I'll have to defer to Mr. Finaro for.
We are applying for grants, Mrs. Teresi, to help with rebuilding the wall, and we're still in the process of doing that.
Will it be, am I allowed to ask Mr. Finaro a question,
Mrs.
Madam
Tracy,
Chair?
go ahead.
I don't want to get yelled at.
No.
Will anyone else assist in helping us with that expense? The schools or anyone else, since it's
We're
kind of a shared property?
Still working on designs with regional stormwater.
Thank you.
Mr. DeJohn?
So, Mr. Murphy, can you just explain the process here? So we condemn a house, and then it comes to council, that we approve that house to be torn down, correct?
Correct.
And then you go in and shut off, or the mayor authorizes the shut off of the utilities, correct? But that all has to be done in that order?
Well, ordinarily, by the time the house reaches the point where it's in a position where it's ready to be demolished, and it should be demolished, the utilities have long since been shut off. Every demolition that I've been familiar with that has been done in both Lyndhurst and Mayfield Heights over the past 15 years, there hasn't been this problem where the utilities are still live. This is the first time this has happened, and I tried to convince the utilities that, you know, the resolution that was adopted by council saying that this house needs demolition is enough to show what the city's position is, but they wanted it in chapter and verse that somebody tells them that this house is going to be demolished. Please shut off the utilities because it's a threat to life, health, and happiness, which should go without saying, but I don't make those decisions. Utilities do.
Thank you. Mr. Jameson, do you have something to add to this?
Thank you, Councilwoman Snyder. Just to clarify that, this is the first, we've demolished a lot of homes in this city, and never before, I didn't even realize that if the gas bill was being paid, that the land bank wouldn't take it down. So I worked at the land bank, Dominion with Paul Murphy, and now we'll have an ordinance if this should ever come up again.
Mr. Bellinger?
Well, I don't know if you can address it. I'm a little hung up with the verbiage in the ordinance because, we're talking about a condemned home, first and foremost. The council has condemned this home, but the terminology you're using in the ordinance has determined it to be dilapidated or unsafe. That doesn't necessarily mean, in my mind's eye, that we've condemned it. So, do we really need to address the fact that this has already been determined to be a condemned property, and then therefore this ordinance would take effect? Because we can say something is unsafe, not necessarily then have to have the authority to turn the utilities on.
Mr. J.
Just kind of hung up on that a little bit.
Let me unhang you.
Okay.
It already has been declared unsafe, and all the reasons that we condemned it. So, as long as that bill's being paid, the utilities, gas and electric, will not shut the service off. So, we went that route, and it's not happening quick enough. So, we put the ordinance together for it. It isn't, we're just letting the gas company and the electric company know that it's still unsafe, vacant, blighted.
Mr. Murphy?
Just to add to that, this language was provided by Dominion, saying if you pass an ordinance with this language in it, then we will go out and turn off the utilities. That's where the language came from, and I agree. It probably, conceivably, should even have something that council has already determined it to be a nuisance, and we can always go back and amend that. But, you know, this is what the utilities said we need, so Friday afternoon, that's what we did.
Mr. Balestra?
The thing, Paul, is like with billing director stated that, you know, they've determined it to be unsafe and rundown or dilapidated or blighted or whatever terminology they want to use. But until council determines that that property is ready to come down, I mean, we don't have the authority at that point to go in and ask for the utilities to be shut off.
But we have determined that it should be torn down.
The building department has. I just don't want us to get into
No, the
any
council has too.
repercussions.
Council has.
Council approved the demolition as well.
That's what I'm saying. We've already approved the demolition, and you've determined it first to be unsafe.
Yeah, and we did everything we had to.
But we don't have that listed in, I'm just not comfortable with it.
Conceivably, there could be a situation where perhaps the building is not going to be torn down. It hasn't reached the level of dilapidation where it's got to be torn down, but with the utilities still on, especially the gas, that would present a hazard if there were a gas leak, or the water, if there were no heat and then the pipes froze and then unfrozen. So, you know, conceivably, it's another step to say we're going to demolish it, but I think this is a good half step.
Okay, just so we're all clear then, that this doesn't necessarily mean this is a condemned piece of property. Just an unsafe piece of property.
This is a condemned piece of property.
This particular one is.
Right.
This particular one is condemned
And this particular property we're talking about, when I'm talking about the ordinance.
1157 Sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's condemned. It was, the demolition order was approved by council.
Right.
There's legislation.
Madam President,
So,
Mayor?
I think this is just another tool in our toolbox to address all of the properties. And so once you get to the point we did with this house, where the building department and council agrees that it is dilapidated or condemnable and it needs to be torn down, then we have this to turn, at that point, to turn off the utilities. I don't think, you know, council nor myself wants to be turning utilities off on people who are living in houses, nor could we.
Mr. Balestra?
The question is, if we've determined, we being the building department, or the city has determined a property to be unsafe, okay, but not necessarily we're tearing that property down. Do we have the right as a city, under this ordinance now, to go in and shut off those utilities? If a roof is leaking and it's unsafe, you want to turn off the utilities, no, it's vacant. Does that give us the teeth to go in there and shut that off without that building necessarily being condemned by the council? I guess that's,
Madam President?
that's where I'm going.
Yes, which is another tool
Okay.
to use in buildings that we have problems with. I mean, I don't really see that many of them out there, but if it came to the point where a building was in such bad shape, or let's just say it was abandoned and nobody was in there, I think it is our responsibility to probably turn off the gas, turn off the water, turn off the electric. So us knowing that it is abandoned, maybe the city would be in some liability there, knowing that, you know, hey, this is on, these utilities are on, and maybe you know, some kind of accident, you know, who knows what could happen there. I think it's in our best interest, but I don't see that happening a lot, but at least it's just another tool that we can
I'm
use.
just thinking from the other point of view. I'm sorry.
Mr. Balestria.
I'm just thinking from the other point of view, if there's a property owner that has a vacant property, we know there's some in the city that are in deplorable condition, that says, hey, you don't have the right to turn off my utilities, I'm still paying for them, and you determine that property to be unsafe. Do we still have the right to do that? And you're saying we do.
Mr. Murphy?
I'll let the lawyer speak, but.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, in a word.
Okay,
Mr. Jameson?
on the record.
The land bank wouldn't follow through with the demolition because the people are still paying the bill. The woman who owns it is, Cynthia Meon. She lives in North Revelton. I tried to call her, ask her to call back, so did the gas company, and hopefully First Energy did too. So as long as they're paying the bill, these are the steps you have to take to get the gas company to do it. And the ordinance is gonna work better than what we've done so far.
Mr. Mano?
I was just gonna say, doesn't this all just go to guaranteeing the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of this community? I mean, that's a simple, you know.
Well said.
That's
Well,
why
it
you're not,
does.
that's why you're not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Mr.
I just want the mayor to know that my house is in good shape, so.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Ordinance 2018-38 has been passed. Moving to motions, there is one motion on tonight's agenda. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Motion to confirm the decision of the Planning Commission approving a preliminary/final site plan for a 900 square foot patio for Speedion on the southwest side of the building at 5875 Landerbrook Drive.
Thank you. This pertains to the construction of a new 1,000 square foot enclosed patio at Landerbrook. Ms. Mayor, would you like to add anything to this?
No, it's not enclosed. It doesn't have a roof on it.
Oh, that's,
Well, just from the Planning Commission, this was a unanimous decision, and it also received a unanimous decision from the Board of Zoning Appeals when it was there for a variance. So I think it's a nice addition to the building. Planning Commission thought so.
thank you. Any further questions? Mr. DeJohn?
Will it have to go to the architectural board of review?
It's been.
Yeah, it has been.
It
Yep.
has been.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further questions? Roll call on the motion.
We need a motion. You didn't get a motion to approve.
Oh, 'cause I'm getting tired. I'm just kidding. We need a motion to approve.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Teresi. Roll call on the motion.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, this motion has passed. Now, new business from council. Is there anything anybody would like to add tonight? Mr. Balestria?
Just that since we won't be meeting, the last, meeting time in December, I just would like to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, during this season. Wish everybody well and a prosperous new year.
Thank you. Mrs. Tressi, did you have something?
No, it's been a pleasant meeting this evening. You did a great job, Mrs. Snyder.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
nice
you.
to see smiles on 7 faces.
Thank you. I would also like to wish everyone a happy holiday season. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mr. Balestria. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you for all. This meeting has been adjourned.